The federal government and governors of the 36 states of the Federation have agreed on a revenue sharing formula to resolve the ranging dispute over the full implementation of financial autonomy for state judiciaries and legislatures. If the agreement is accepted by judicial and parliamentary workers who have been on a strike for over 1 month to press home their demands for financial autonomy for the two arms of government in 36 states of the Federation, funds from the Federation account due to each state are to be jointly shared among the executive, legislature, and judiciary in each state. The new proposal, which was given to the leadership of both the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JOSUN, and Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASAN, at a conciliatory meeting last Thursday in Abuja, seek to replicate the federal revenue sharing structure in the states. This day gathered that under the new template, the governors will establish, within 45 days of the agreement, State Account Allocation Committee (SAAC) to share revenues among the executives, the judiciary, and the legislature, the same way the Federal Account Allocation Committee (FAAC) shares revenue between the federal, states, and local government councils. The proposal also stipulates that the Accountant General of the Federation (AGF), Abubakar Malami, will invoke Executive Order 10 against any state that fails to abide by the terms of the agreement. A presidency source told This Day at the weekend that among the new offers made to the judiciary and legislative workers by the federal and state government was a reassurance that state governors are committed to implementing full financial autonomy for the two arms of government. They also agreed that they will set up all the structures necessary for the implementation of the financial autonomy, including the budget committee, where the judiciaries and state legislature will forward their expenditure estimates. That will be based on the budget envelope of the project and annual revenue earning for the arms of government, as is being done at the federal level, he said. According to the source, when the executive, judiciary, and legislature prepare their annual budget estimates, they will forward them to the State House of Assembly for consideration and approvals. So when the revenue comes from the federal and internally generated revenue (IGR), the State Fund Allocation Committee will now convene the State Account Allocation Committee (SAAC), which will now oversee the disbursement of money to different arms of government, he stated. He added that each state will ensure that it establishes fund allocation committee for its legislature and judiciary to be headed by the head of the courts and the legislature. The two arms of government will also be expected to set up a tenders board to be headed by the court registrar and the clerk of the state houses assembly, he said. He added that the same structure at the federal level will be transposed down to the states. He said the same template used by the National Judicial Council (NJC) at the federal level will be adopted in disbursing funds to the judiciary in the state. He said under the new arrangement, State Fund Allocation Committee will be headed by the State Commissioner for Finance. Also, state houses of assembly will be allocated funds in the same manner that the National Assembly receives its allocation after the budget approval. So, if there's a breach on the part of the state government, that would trigger off Executive Order 10, which empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to remit funds directly to the state judicial and legislative arm of the government. But if you are doing all that is provided in the proposed template, there will be no need to invoke the Executive Order, he said. The striking judicial and legislative workers had earlier vowed not to compromise on their demands for the implementation of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The workers said last week at a meeting with the federal government team led by Minister of Labour and Employment Dr. Chris Ngige that the issue of financial autonomy for state legislatures and judiciaries was a constitutional provision that did not warrant any negotiation with governors. Josu and Passan had also insisted that the governors must fully implement financial autonomy for the two arms of government in the 36 states of the Federation as guaranteed by the Constitution before the strike would be called off. The federal government had also pleaded with the unions to consider the effort being made to resolve the dispute and suspend their strikes to enable the courts and legislatures to reopen. Ngige had said last week that progress had been made in about 90% of the issues in dispute. However, the meeting between the federal government team and the leadership of the unions had ended with an agreement that unions should go and study the government's proposal before the next meeting billed for tomorrow. So there's a way forward now. They are eventually getting a way forward. The judiciary, they've been on strike, and their reason for being on strike, they've stated that enough is enough, that every time they'll be crawling to the federal government begging for what is due them, that they don't want it that way. There should be financial autonomy. So this financial autonomy they're talking about, the states should be handling all of the funds, not them running back to federal government. And anytime they have to go through that way, it looks as though they are always begging for what is due them. But right now, they've been on they've had some consultations, and they've decided on something which will see both ends happy. We hope that federal government will keep to their end of the bargain. And it's been stated that the new system will actually take effect after 45 days of the agreement. The judges have been on strike, and if the judges are on strike, there are a lot of issues that need attending to, but because they're on strike, unfortunately, there's not much that can be done. The system actually needs them back. So the earlier their dispute is resolved, the better for everyone. But with the way things are going and with the report we're getting right now, they are making headway. And then once the both parties finally agree, then they will call off the strike. That they stated that initially that this is not one of them strikes that they will just call them and tell them to just can they just shun the strike, that they will meet their needs. They stated it from the onset that this strike is not, they are not going to call off this strike until their demands are met. And what are they demanding? They need that all of the allocations come from the state government, not from the federal government, because that doesn't go down well with them. So the federal government they had a meeting with all of the 36 state governors of the federation, and they've actually agreed on the mode of sharing this. They've agreed on a revenue sharing formula to actually resolve this raging dispute for the full implementation of the financial autonomies for the state judiciaries and legislations. Guys, let's hear your take down below in the comment section. Thank you once again for staying tuned. Please don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe. Till I come your way again on more updates. Bye.